Going to approve the agenda. We're going to start with the approval of the agenda recommendation of the regular council meeting agenda for April the 23rd, 2025 be approved as circulated. Councillor Bushel, Councillor Bailey, all in favor, carried. Did you get the time that meeting started?
Yeah.
Adoption of minutes, recommendation of the minutes of the regular council meeting held on April 9th, 2025 be adopted. Councillor Bailey, Councillor McCabe, all in favor. Let me scan the room. Carried. Okay, we have no public hearings, so we're going straight to delegations. District of Sycamoose 2024 consolidated financial statements. Angie Spencer from BDO Canada LLP. There's a recommendation that this District of Sycamoose 2024 consolidated financial statements for the year ending December 21st, 2024 be as presented by BDO Canada LLP be approved and that BDO Canada LLP be appointed as auditors for the 2025 fiscal year. Over. Councillor Bushel, Councillor McCabe. We will let Angie take it away. Thanks, Angie. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Worship, and thank you, councillors, for having me in management. I'm a partner with BDO, so we are the independent auditor of the District of Sycamoose, and we have completed our audit of the December 31st, 2024 financial statements. I am going to share my screen and just go over at a high level the financial statements for you this evening. So on the set of statements, page 2 and 3 is the overall independent audit opinion. So we are issuing what's considered a clean or unqualified audit opinion, meaning that these financial statements are considered free of material misstatement and that they are presented with all of the requirements of public sector accounting standards, which of course all municipalities need to follow. There are a couple of items I would like to note. You'll see that there's an emphasis of matter paragraph that talks about restated comparative figures. So management went through an in-depth exercise this year, noting that there were some assets either missing or not correctly recorded from years and years ago on the capital asset ledger. So those have all been corrected this year. Note 2 outlines what the impact of those were. It was about $221,000 of changes that would have impacted the tangible capital asset balances and then the accumulated surplus. Those have been corrected now and on a go-forward basis will be accurate. So page 4 is the statement of financial position. This is a snapshot, if you will, as at December 31st of all the assets and liabilities of the district. So total financial assets came in at 17.6 million. That was down from the prior year at 20.4 million. And that was largely, there was a lot of projects going on, a lot of capital projects this year where some of the funds were spent. So then you'll see here also there is an increase in some accounts receivable at 2.8 million. That's some grants that will be received to cover some of those costs. And a decrease overall in the portfolio investments and a slight increase in cash. In terms of liabilities decreased from 12.6 million in 2023 to 11.9 million in 2024. Some large changes there would have been around accounts payable and accrued liabilities has increased during the year. That's just due to the significant capital projects that are ongoing. There were more invoices, et cetera, that would have been received right close to year end and will be paid in 2025. Long-term debt remains the same, just continues to be paid down, and deferred revenue decreased quite a bit during the year. There were some government grants that were restricted or must be spent on capital projects, and of course those are underway. So some of those funds have been released to cover those costs. Tangible capital assets has gone from 80 million up to 89.3 million. So, you know, a substantial increase in terms of capital projects during the year, as I mentioned, with the Healing Center as being part of it, and the daycare facility and various other upgrades to the community. That's offset as well by amortization during the year for any completed projects. So accumulated surplus came in at 95.2 million. That's effectively the overall assets less liabilities of the district. So I'm moving on to page 5. This is the statement of operations. It covers all of the revenue and expenditures for fiscal 2024. The first column is the approved budgeted figures, and the second column is the actuals with comparatives in the third column. So revenue came in at 19.7 million. That was up over the prior year of 14.6 million. Most notably, again, government grants increased substantially with a lot of capital grants. You'll see in note 18, it gives you a further breakdown of where the grant funding came from. But capital grants for the projects that I previously had mentioned. In addition, there was an increase in the contribution by developers, came in at 2.3 million, up from 489,000 in the prior year. Other areas, the typical tax revenue and permits, user fees, et cetera, were fairly consistent with prior year. Expenditures that increased from 11.1 million to 12.4 million during the year. Again, we're seeing kind of inflationary increases across the board with some, additional increases, around transportation, recreation and cultural services, et cetera, for the year. So that leaves the annual surplus, which is revenue less expenditures, to come in at 7.3 million. And that was fairly consistent with what was budgeted. So I'm not proposing to go through the remainder of the financial statements. The notes to the financial statements just illustrate what the accounting policies that are followed by the District of Sicamous, and also provides further detail on, the references here to the balance sheet and income statement numbers. But I am happy to answer any questions that you might have on the financial statements or on the audit in general.
Thank you, Angie. Council, any questions? Okay, let's call the question on that. All in favor?
Councillor Bailey might have a
Oh,
question.
sorry. Oh, we're taking that back. Go ahead, Councillor Bailey.
Oh, he's good, it looks like.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Okay, we're going to continue with the District of Sicamous Development Corporation 2024 financial statements, and she's going to continue. There's a recommendation that the District of Sicamous Development 2024 financial statements for the year ending December 31st, 2024 is presented by BDO Canada LLP be approved. Could I get a mover? Councillor Bushel, Councillor McCabe. Angie, you want to go ahead?
Sure, absolutely. So this is the Development Corporation's financial statements. These are not audited. These are just compiled by BDO and, have a lot less going through them. So total assets for 2024 at December 31st came in at 183,961, fairly consistent with prior year in terms of, the amounts that are sitting in cash, et cetera. In terms of liabilities, again, very consistent with prior year, about 76,519. Most of that is related to MRDT amounts that must, be reserved and spent on tourism initiatives. So will be spent in a future period. So assets less liabilities leaves retained earnings and shareholders' equity of 107,442. In terms of the income statement, total net income for the year came in at $13,229. Again, similar revenue sources as last year. There was some grant funding. Obviously, MRDT has increased during 2024. So, and also there were more projects ongoing. So more of that was recognized during the year. So total revenue came in at $308,197. While expenses were fairly similar at $296,113, with the majority of it being paying salary and wages and the specific project costs. So that is all I have on the Development Corp.
Thank you, Angie. Questions, council? No. Okay, let's call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Angie.
Thanks for having me, and a big thank you to Bianca and Tom for all their support with the audit. We really appreciate all their help.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bylaws and policy, District of Sycamores Financial Plan bylaw adoption. Who would be?
Me.
Do you want to go, do you want to do that and then I'll read the recommendation on it?
Yep, I
You've got two.
don't have much to say on that one. This is adoption of our financial plan. So I did my presentation last evening and just a 4% increase. And yeah, that's all I got there.
Okay, recommendation of the District of Sycamores Financial Plan bylaw 2025-29, number 1105/2025 be adopted this 23rd day of April 2025. Can I get a mover? Councillor Bailey, Councillor Bushel, any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. There's a recommendation of the District of Sycamores tax rate bylaw number 1107/2025 be read a first, second, and third time this 23rd day of April 2025. Could I get a mover? Councillor McCabe, Councillor Bushel. Is there any discussion, Bianca? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I can just explain this one a little bit. So, using our financial plan, we didn't take that and we set our tax rates. So our district policy has always been to kind of maintain the tax rates between all of our different classes. So for example, a class 1 and a class 6, both overall experience a similar tax increase. So when we say it's a 4% tax increase, that's what we want on all of our classes. So if you look here, I've done up a couple different tables just for information on what this means. So tax rates that are per our bylaw, and then how that kind of flushes out. So a class 1 residential, when you look at the previous tax base, they are paying a 4% increase over that same tax base of last year. Same with business. And then we have our non-market change. So that's our new construction, changes in classes, stuff like that. It put there. So that how we set our tax rates is so no one is really, no class is seeing a different rate. So when we say our 4% increase, as long as your assessment went up by the average, you should see that increase. Another part in our tax rate bylaw, we do have to set rates for some of the other authorities. So what happens is we receive a requisition from the hospital district, the Okanagan Regional Library District, and the Columbia Shuswap Regional District. We receive those requisitions and then we have to set the tax rates for those. So we do a very similar thing as we do for our own rates, where we allocate to try to make that change. Nothing too crazy, same multiples. So there's that. And then I also just wanted to include just some trend information. So when you're looking at the different classes and the changes overall, not all classes experience the same trends, right? Sometimes residential goes up in market value, sometimes it goes down, sometimes business goes up by more. So we really saw, so our residential total class went up by about 1.61% overall, entire class 1. Whereas our business class actually saw a reduction of about 5.2%. So if you are here from a business owner, woo, my assessment went down 5%, my taxes are going to go down. No. Maybe just simmer them down a bit, because that's not how it works. So they would be within or close to average. So they should be experiencing a similar increase as our tax increase. I took this a little step further on our residential because BC assessment does give us a nice little breakdown of how that works. So the residential piece gets broken out between vacant, single family, ALR, strata. And what I found interesting here is our single families actually saw a 0.84% increase, so a below average compared to the class itself. Whereas our stratas saw a 5% increase. So overall, a single family home on average is going to see Not quite of as large of increase as, say, one of our, someone with a condo. Just because of the trends. And you know what? Sometimes last year, that single family home was up compared to a condo. So it's not a perfect science. And it is a bit confusing for people, especially when it comes to single family homes, when taxpayers get their their assessments at the beginning of the year, it'll show where they're at within their class. And a lot of times they're showing single family, whereas really your tax rates get set based on the entire class, not that. So it's a little bit confusing, and we're just trying to provide as much information from our level as we can. So these trends are really important. So then the last piece, I have received all the other rates that we don't set the rate, but we're given them. So I've received everything now. So an average single family home for our municipal purposes, if they were all properties fall under our water treatment plant, long-term debt bylaw. About 40% fall under our sewer collection phase 2. So overall, for those services on their property tax notice, they're gonna see just under a 3% increase. For our other municipal services, with our 5% water increase and our 10% sewer increase, they'll see an additional, so those rates are going up by about 7%. So overall tax bill, and municipal services for water and sewer, we're at about 4.14%. So pretty good. I actually had a call with, it's our association for the province, and about, I would say 80% are within the 1 to 5% mark. So it's nice to see that we're falling with the other group, mostly closer to the 5% mark, I would say, is where everyone's falling. So we're well within that range, which is good to see. And then our other authorities, once we flesh that all out, our CSRD requisition actually went down. So we're seeing a decrease there. North Okanagan Hospital District, increase of 1%. Our library, 4.78. Police, 1.11. I was a little bit scared to get this one. I wasn't sure what it was gonna be, so I'm really happy to see it's not too bad. Our school tax, 2.63. BC assessments, BC assessment and MFA are quite low, but not a huge change there. So overall, on our property tax notices, about a 2.7% increase. So not too bad. And then just another plug for people to always remember to claim their homeowner grant if it's applicable. And yeah, one of the main reasons for the reduction of the CSRD amount is council did choose to withdraw from tourism. So that had quite a large impact there. And I think that's all I have. So with this bylaw is required to be adopted by before May 15th. That's our deadline. However, there is a potential for a Canada Post strike again that would begin May 22nd, so which is just after the long weekend, which gives us a really tight turnaround. If the strike does happen, it's a very tight turnaround to get property tax notices in the mail. So after we pass this bylaw, I'd also like to just discuss potential for a special meeting, if possible, for next Monday, and then I can get these notices out as quick as possible. And everyone can find out what their tax increase is. I think people enjoy knowing sooner than later. Yeah, that's all I got on that.
Council, any questions? Thank you, Bianca. You know what? I mean, great job and great job, council, keeping everything as tight as we possibly can. But understanding, our community needs to understand that taxes pay for our infrastructure and pay for our services and pay for, the town looking like it does look. So, I mean, we've got public works out there, cutting grass and taking care of biz and paving going on and parks going in. So when we're in these discussions at this time of year, talking about taxes and tax increases, we also have to keep in mind that we do need reserves and we need that emergency fund as well. So nice job keeping taxes nice and tight, but you know, at some point they may not always be this tight. So we, you know, have to keep that in mind as well. Okay, so let's call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay. So we are on fees and charges amendment bylaw 1106/2025, first, second, third reading. Is this the one? Yeah, this is. Yeah, we just did tax rates, right? Recommendation of the District of Sycamoose fees and charges amendment bylaw number 1106/2025 be read first, second, third time this 23rd day of April. Could I get a mover? Counselor Bushel, Counselor Bailey. Bianca?
Okay, so this one, we've already talked about it once before, and we decided to hold off. So we were a bit closer with our tax rate bylaw. So what it's doing is I've now added this 2025 row. To do the 5% increase for water rates and the 10% increase for sewer rates for metered users. So that has been done for this part. And then I've also worked with Jamie on cleaning up the special event section of our bylaw, so rentals and special event fees, just to clean it up so that this encompasses everything that we're currently renting out for at the rates that we've been renting it out for. And then also with the addition of our healing center room rates, which we discussed at our December Finance Committee meeting. So if there's any questions.
Council, any questions? Council Bushel.
Through the chair, Bianca, we talked and with Daryl too, we talked about high concentration rates of the houseboats pay, but the Shell doesn't pay. Have we looked into that? Can we charge them for the high concentration when they dump their RVs?
So we are currently looking into that, and that's a part of our utility rate review for this year. We're not at a point to be able to pull the trigger on that, but it's in the works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make it a level playing field.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Anyone else, council? Councilor McKay.
I don't know if this is related, and if it's not, that's fine. Few people have asked me, how come there's an orange ring in the toilet? You get, if the water sits for a while, you get an orange ring.
Yes, through the chair. It was a bit of a mystery for me as well, when I first took a call like that a number of years ago. So our guys did some research, we looked it up. It's a bacteria that does that. There's a name for it. I've got some information I could share with you if you want to, if you ever get asked and you want to pass that out. It's not uncommon. It's moisture and bacteria, and the recommendation is just to use an aggressive cleaner to get rid of it.
So the toilet water, thank you. The toilet water is the same as the tap water, isn't it? So
Yeah.
people are afraid to drink the water because of that orange.
It's not, water is part of the formula, but it's not coming from the water. So the first call I got was on a white tub. They said they had some orange on their white tub. So we started looking into what that could be. And there, like I said, there's a big long name for it, and I've got information on it, but it's a bacteria.
It's not related to drinking
Not
water.
related to the water.
So sitting still, stagnant air creates that ring.
Yeah, in a humid environment, it grows.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Questions answered, inquiring minds needed to know. Okay, I'm gonna call. Oh, yeah. Counselor Bailey, do you have a related? question?
Well, no, I was just gonna follow up on, the last part, but it's not harmful, correct?
Through the chair, I don't know if it would be harmful. I mean, like, if you've got mold appearing at your house, it could be harmful as well. So, I would suggest cleaning it with a good cleaner. That's the recommendation in the documents we read.
Okay, but I guess the elephant in the room now kind of is the water is not the cause of it, and the water is perfectly safe to drink, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't want to leave it where it was, because I was kind of thinking like, what? Okay. All right, that's good to know. So water is safe to drink.
Water's
Water's good.
yes.
It's the environment around the water, not the water.
Correct.
Right.
It's like a hard water stain.
Yes. Okay, great. That's all I wanted to just
Thing.
clarify.
Not a biologist, but
I'll share what I've got. I'll send.
okay, that sounds good. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Daryl.
All right, let's call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Bianca, back to you. What do you want to talk about?
Oh, would council be available next Monday for a special council meeting?
Okay,
And if so, is it preferred morning or afternoon?
so I have a question. Okay, so what is the purpose of the meeting?
Just to adopt the tax rates bylaw,
So that we can
So that-
send out the,
tax notices.
correct. Okay, so can we do that?
Today,
Can't we do it today?
We can't adopt in the same meeting. And then we need to give a 24-hour notice. So the earliest we could technically do would be Friday. So we have some other meetings on Friday, so that's why we're proposing Monday.
Okay. Sure. Council?
I can do Monday.
You can do Monday? Counselor, you can do Monday? Counselor Bailey?
Yeah, what time are you thinking?
What, we could do it early if you want to bang it off at like 9 in the morning
On my way.
or after, whatever, wherever we can get quorum.
Okay, I like 11 o'clock would work well for me. Is it just like a 5-minute thing?
Yes. And
Okay.
you could also go online. You do
Perfect.
exactly what you're doing right now.
Okay, let's go 11 o'clock,
11 a.m.
11 a.m. on Monday.
Perfect.
Someone will send.
Send out a mail.
Well,
Thank you.
There'll be an agenda.
Yeah, I know.
It's old people who forget things.
Okay, perfect. All right, moving on. Staff reports, award for annual road paving. Recommendation that the council authorize staff to enter into a contract with Terrace Construction, formerly Valley Blacktop, for the 2025 annual works to pulverize, is that correct? And pave municipal roads. The net cost not to exceed 300,000 plus applicable GST. Making a mover. Councillor Bushel, Councillor McCabe. Daryl, did you want to?
I can speak to it, sure. Yeah, we've brought this to the budget meeting and we've got the amount of 300,000. So we're proposing that we go with the low bid to work to no more than that amount. We have been pulverizing and paving the roads. We started that with McLean McPherson probably 5 or 6 years ago as a test to enhance the base. Instead of milling it and taking it away, we pounded in and we put on top. So it's made the base structure better. So we are diligently working our way through some of the older AC lines to try to get the full lifespan out of them before we have to come and tear the roads up. So we're proposing this year, we do a kilometer of lanes on Cedar and 700 meters on Oak, and then another 400 meters on Birch.
Council, any questions? Councillor Bushel?
Yeah, I just want to say, I like you using the local company. You know, it's good to keep it local, especially with all the stuff that's going on in the world today.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? And that's carried. Perfect. No notices of motion, no resolution, correspondence for information. Does anyone want to speak to anything in correspondence for information? Fibromyalgia, there's a date on that. There's a letter from Mary Ann Easton. I think we spoke to the dog. I think we spoke to this, covered this a little bit this earlier today. And that's it. Not getting a lot of fan mail. Okay, so we have the internal committees for information, planning and development committee meeting minutes. Does anyone want to speak to that? Okay, external committees, the Shuswap program executive meeting minutes and North Okanagan Columbia Shuswap Regional Hospital. No takers on that. Okay, so we are at public input. Public, do you have anything you'd like to input? No questions? Hey, thanks. Anyone online that wants to share their thoughts?
Not one.
Okay. Wow, that was quick. Recommendation that the regular council meeting for April 23rd, 2025 be adjourned at 5:32. Councillor McCabe, Councillor Bailey, all in favor, and we are done.